A couple of weeks ago, thanks to our classmate Sal Greco, I reconnected with Charles Ciup. We studied radio and television arts together at Ryerson. Charles, thanks for joining me today, but instead of introducing you, I'm going to let you do it by answering the question, what did you do last week?
Oh, last week was a busy week. Last week I wrapped Masked Singer, the 5th season of Masked Singer. So we finished our last taping day. The finale was last week, and I think they turned it around, the series around very quickly.
Yeah, I think it
it's on the
starts
air.
airing in Canada this week.
Yeah. I think, what day is it today? Tuesday, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
If it wasn't for garbage delivery, or pickup, I wouldn't know what day it was.
That's both of us.
After that was Judge Judy. We're in the end of the 25th season of Judge Judy, and this is our final season. We're going to wrap up in the middle of April, 25 years on the air. Incredible gig. Nobody gets gigs like that.
Right.
Usually, you land a TV show, it goes for 3 or 4 or 9 seasons if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I've been really lucky. 25 seasons of that, almost 30 seasons of Dancing with the Stars, which is what I did before Masked Singer. 15 seasons or 16 of America's Got Talent.
You have a complete and full resume. You're a busy guy. And
well, as I tell the
of...
director on Judge Judy, I said, okay, so Judge Judy is the #1 rated show in daytime. And Dancing with the Stars is the #1 show in prime time when it's on. AGT is the #1 show during the summer. Masked Singer is the #1 show in its time slot. So look me in the eye and tell me what the common denominating factor is.
Your fingers?
That's what I maintain.
Right. And
he doesn't buy it. I'm trying to raise my rate. So
right. Yeah. Well, hopefully I can help with that. So
that'd be good.
What is TV production like now that everybody's in lockdown? Have things changed? Can you work from home?
Some productions can work from home. The ones that I do, not so much. They're really too complex. There are way too many cameras to deal with, and the communication is really important. You kind of have to be on site.
So you're in the studio. You're in the control room. What exactly is it that you do? I mean, we talked about your fingers, but that's kind of the visible part.
Yeah, that's funnily enough, in COVID times, that's my most important function. In ordinary production times, that's just one facet of my job. Because of the way we work, let's take Masked Singer, for example. Masked Singer, the way we're divided up, I have my own room, like this one, without the guitars. Like this one, there is nobody else in there. I have my own bathroom. I have a switcher that is in front of me. I have my intercom system where I can communicate with everybody. I've got my laptop over here where I have Zoom up on my laptop where I can see the director who's in his own room. I can see the associate director who's in his own room. I can see the script supervisor who's in his own room. I can see the audio mixer in his own room. In a regular production environment, all of those people that I just mentioned, minus camera operators, we're all in the same room. Right. We're trading jokes. It's the relationship between the director, who sits like this close to me normally, and the AD, who sits that close to him. We're like one big creative production team, and the jokes and the insults and the observations of what works and what doesn't work flow freely.
Right. And in the control room, just a look or a glance or an arm movement is enough to cue you that that's the cut.
You understand that?
Yeah.
Perfectly. It's you hear the nuance in the voice that you don't actually get over the intercom, and sometimes it is just a hand movement. Sometimes it's a take one.
Right.
Well, you've already taken it before he said it because that was the hand signal.
You knew it was coming. Right. Yeah, we had a director who, when switching cameras, would go ready camera 1, but then would not call it. He would say woof when he wanted you to take.
I worked with a director who would snap. He'd go, take 1.
Yeah.
Take 3. Take 4. He worked with one technical director, one switcher, who, when he first started working with him, he'd say take 1, and the guy would take take one like he was used to doing, and the director would go crazy and go, "Wait for the snap," and it was a hard habit to break.
Right.
So, wait for the snap, and then at one point during the process, the director is going in a panicky moment of something going on a live show. He goes, "Take two, take two, take two," and the switcher looked at him and went, "You didn't snap."
Right.
So you have to be careful with this.
And this is always the problem with directors who over-direct, that you've got someone who ends up yelling at a cameraman. He says, "If I wanted you to stop zooming, I'd tell you to stop zooming." So you know the next time you ask that cameraman to zoom, you're going to be getting a close-up of nose if you don't say anything. That is such a dangerous thing to do. You have to make sure that it's a collaborative team and you're working together.
The best directors are the ones who know how to work in collaboration with the rest of their team, whether it's the mixer or the camera operators or the technical director.
So you're pretty much at the pinnacle of what this industry is about, right? Like you have the job that so many people dream of. How many peers do you have in Los Angeles?
I'd say just in entertainment in general, live and tape programs, in the freelance market. Mm-hmm. There are probably between 15 and 20, maybe 30 at the most, freelance TDs who work all the time. That's exclusive of sports. Sports, there's 60, 70, 80 TDs, right, not only in LA, but scattered around the country. And sports is a different beast because if you work strictly sports, you can live anywhere you like because they fly you to wherever the game is happening.
Right. And it's highly specialized. Like you don't do sports, you don't do episodic. Well, sorry, you do episodic, but there's other like cinema level production, like a series like Mrs. Maisel.
Shows like Mrs. Maisel are actually movies made for television episodically. Right.
Yeah.
So they're shot film style. They don't use a technical director. If you see a technical director in the credits, he is really a camera supervisor. He notes all of the camera angles, but it's a completely different job than an entertainment type technical director does.
So you say he when we talk about technical directors. Is it an exclusively male field still? Or
not exclusively, but it's a predominantly male field. It is, I think I know of 1, 2, 3. I know personally 3 women technical directors. I've known probably currently working, I've known a maximum of 5 or 6 female technical directors, and there are probably, well, I'm sure there are way more than that. And many of the women that I knew who had been technical directors had moved on to become directors and gave up technical direction. And directing is also pretty much a male-dominated field in this town. But there are a lot of women directors, and there's not, men are no better at being technical directors than women.
I'm thinking back to our Ryerson days when, we shot with Philips Plamacon cameras and Ampex 2-inch videotape recorders, enormous beasts with compressors.
With compressors and noisy as hell.
Right. So all of those brands and those technologies, they're all long gone. What's the most significant change in, 30 years, 40 years of TV production?
I'm often asked that question. My answer is almost always the same. It's the change from analog to digital.
Right.
To digital, and from standard definition to high definition. But that kind of goes hand in hand, or it happened at the same time. But really, the standard from analog to digital was in my view, the single major factor in the changes that we see in television now. Just in terms of working, in terms of the final product, I don't know what that would be.
All right. So what has not changed over that time? What remains the same?
The people, the way you put a show together, the way you interact with your crew, the way you interact with the director and the talent. None of that has changed. That's apart from the fact that nobody smokes anymore.
I don't know if you have a crystal ball handy, but what technologies do you think are going to shape the next 10 years? 3D, 8K, what's
As far as a single driving force forward, where is the future going? I don't know, streaming, I guess. Maybe not traditional TV broadcast the way we know it and that the way we've known it for forever. But streaming services, and whoever thought you'd want to watch TV shows on your phone. You go, well, that's too small, but now people do it all the time. That's what we do. So the future of broadcast is, there are so many paths forward. I can't tell you which one's going to take off, and it could be nothing that we've thought of yet. Yeah. Some bright kid who's playing video games right now, which is actually a great way to start when you want to do all this razzle dazzle stuff that we do. Some kid playing video games is going to come up with, hey, what if we tried this? Or I saw this in a video game. Can I actually do this in real life? All right. And they'll do something that takes the world by storm.
If your 20-year-old self came up to you and said, Charles, I'd like to do what you're doing now in 5 years, 10 years, what advice would you give to someone? What advice would you give to yourself?
I've been asked that a number of times, and I'm always not exactly stumped, but I have so many answers that it's almost, you have to want to do it. And if it's something you really want to do, you'll see avenues of where to go. I know it sounds a little bit zen and, kind of if you build it, they will come kind of thing. But it actually kind of happens that way in a lot of cases. You create your own opportunities, or you see your own opportunities. The trick is it something you really want to do? That's sort of the best way to do that is you have to have thought, oh, that would be a fun job. Well, what made you think that would be a job in any case? Do you have a friend who does that? Do you have friends who work at TV stations and you'd like to work for a TV station and that sounds like something you'd like to do? If you do that, have them invite you to this TV station, immerse yourself in the environment. Most control rooms, the director doesn't have a problem if your friend, the technical director or switcher, wants to bring you in and show you around. Then there are other places to try and find TV equipment. Sports arenas have their own switchers. Churches have their own switchers. High schools, colleges, for their high school sports, have their own switchers. I'm talking about the actual equipment, not the person. The pushing the buttons, that's the tool. It's important to know how to use the tool, and these are the places where you can learn to use it. But being a TD is really much more than that. It's about your relationship with the crew. You're a kind of a crew chief, so how you manage the camera crew, how you make sure that they get their 5 or 10 minute breaks, which sounds petty, but it's really important to them. They're on their feet for 10, 12 hours a day. If you can get them a break every hour and a half, you're their hero. They'll do anything for you. So it's important to do that. People skills, working with a director, working with an AD. If you're an affable person, you're already one step ahead of the game. If you're not in the business already, if you're not in a TV station or a sports venue or one of those places, go to school. Go to a school, a vocational school or a college. If you're in high school, take the TV production classes.
While I was going to Ryerson, I was actually working in community cable. I had, access to the studio because they never used it during the hours that I wanted to, after 6 p.m. They pretty much gave me the run of the place. I could produce whatever I wanted to. So I, in my spare time at community cable, I did news shows, I did music shows, I did interview, like just about everything that you could do. I had the chance to practice at community cable. I think these days, however, you might think about what you can do at home on YouTube with, stuff that is fairly inexpensive. Like cameras are so much less than when we were kids. A switcher, the ATEM Mini, the ATEM Mini Pro, those are great tools to start with. I think that it's maybe easier to do some of the practical things that you're mentioning now than they were when we were young.
I think you're right. There are a lot of great software programs that come with equipment. Mm-hmm. The cheap cameras that you buy will often come with video editing programs that incorporate audio. my point being that when you go to school, you're exposing yourself to a whole bunch of different things, and you may find that what you thought you wanted to do is not what you really want to do by the time you reach the end of the process. Or you may go through it and enjoy it for what it is for the time that you're doing it, and still have other resources to fall back on that you picked up while you were going to school, and go, I really like that, and I'd like to give that a try.
Well, that's great. Thanks. As I say, I really appreciate your time this afternoon. It was so nice of you to find time in what is a very busy and exciting schedule. I mean, there's no part of me that's not envious of the things that you're doing. I remember doing all those things at Ryerson. I remember switching, and certainly there's some part of me that thinks, well, that's a career that still seems appealing. Nice to hear how that path ended up for you, and I'm happy for your success. It's great to know where my classmates ended up. Thanks.
All right, Maarten.